Yo. Clean hair. You're welcome. If you're joining live or on the replay, say hello. Oh my goodness, have I got something in my teeth? Yeah. We're all good. Sexy. Well, full disclosure, I did just have basically a full roast for my lunch. I'd done like this yummy chicken the other night and I had some left, so I thought, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use the gravy and the rest of the chicken and do some buttery roast potatoes and some yummy tender stem broccoli, and I just had essentially a full roast for my lunch on a Thursday afternoon. Because the sacral wants what the sacral wants, people. I want to talk to you today about something that I started writing about last week, actually, which was this idea of how we tend to use self-punishment or like shaming ourselves to create change or to kind of catalyze ourselves into evolving. And a real big change has happened for me over the last 8 months to a year, maybe even a little bit more. It's taken time. So this is the first thing I want you to know, is that this shift has taken me time to live into, because the idea of getting something wrong, and then like being punished for it or being shamed for it or embarrassed about it or disappointed, and then like working harder because, you know, I wanted to prove that I could do the thing, it just started to feel really gross, you know? And there was genuinely a time where I could only grow and make change in my life and in my business if I felt like I would kind of fall on spikes if I got it wrong. You know, it was like, oh, if this doesn't work, then that would mean X, Y, Z. So for example, in money, that might look like, I don't know, if this is such a long time since I felt this way about money, which is a really nice reflection for me to feel in my body. I'm like, when was the last time I felt like that? A long time ago, which is good. But I feel like sometimes money's maybe not the best one for me to use, because I am actually struggling to think of something. Let me just feel into something that's been a bit more recent. My relationship with food and my body. So, counting calories, working out as punishment, feeling like if I eat more, I have to train harder in order to like sustain a certain body type, all of this stuff. It makes it really hard to maintain a level of emotional health, mental well-being, and it also makes it really hard to maintain the results that I wanted in the first place. And the same is true of money. The same is true of sales. For example, when I used to feel like I had to like manipulate or convince or like sell to people and like convince them to come and buy my things, it led to a feeling inside of me that I had to like work so hard to prove that the investment was worth it, you know? And then what that does is it puts me into like this push energy that's really fucking draining, rather than just being able to allow space for my genius to flow. So what I've noticed recently is when I coach, when I mentor, when I'm facilitating sessions or group work, I really want to hold, and this is my zone of genius when it comes to coaching and things, right? I hold the frequency of what I see and feel for you in your highest and best. I feel your higher self. I feel your ultimate potential, your limitless nature. and I reflect that back to you. I don't shame you or make you feel like shit if you haven't done something. And it's so interesting to me because I can see the calibration that happens when people come and work with me and they've been used to almost being like shamed or punished if they're not doing the things. So for example, if somebody comes to me, I've had this recently with a client actually, where they've been like, oh, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, just do it. And actually I was like, no, I'm not going to say that. That doesn't, if you don't want to do something, I'm not going to make you do something. Because if you feel like every time you wish to expand into something new, if you feel like if you fail and land on your ass, which ouch is going to hurt anyway, you've then got me standing over you going, well, you should have tried harder. Why didn't you work more? You know, like that's not going to do anything. And I actually said to my friend Michelle yesterday, I realize now that I love to inspire people to claiming their brilliance. I'm not interested in telling you all the places where you've gone wrong. I want to turn up the volume on all the stuff you're doing right, on all the things that feel good. Do more of that. If it doesn't feel good to you to show up online and do live streams, but you really like writing, do that. Yeah, that doesn't mean we don't clear resistance. It doesn't mean that there isn't some ass kickery when we both know you're in resistance around something and you maybe need a little nudge. That's not what that means. It just means that I'm naturally inclined to being quite hard on myself in the past. Like I'm so much better at it now, like being nice to myself and compassionate and having empathy for the fact that I'm a human, having a human experience whilst running a business and, you know, creating the physique that I desire, having relationships, you know, like all of the things that we do as humans. So I'm very gentle with myself to a point. But what I used to notice was if a coach or a mentor would, you know, like activate the frequency of shame or like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not trying enough. If I felt that frequency being ignited in my body, it would push me forward and I'd be able to like get more out of myself. But that didn't necessarily mean I would get more results. It just meant that I felt like I was doing more towards it. And then I would burn out. And then I would lose inspiration. Then I got to the point where I didn't even feel like, I was kind of like, what's even the point of making money? What's even the point of running a business? What's even the point of trying to help people if I am constantly burning the fuck out? There's just no way to exist for me. Like it doesn't feel good. So last year in the summer, when I really started to feel that happening, I had to take a really long, hard look at myself. And this is where I started to really get into the human design side of things and operating from the sacral and using my authority to guide my life and make decisions. And it was so confronting at first. When I first started, and I worked with Elisa Canali, who is amazing, and I was in her 6-month mastermind called Opulence. And it was very confronting to be met with this idea of coming back to the sacral. And I found it uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable, and I could see it working for other people in that container, and they were like, oh, I just relaxed and I had like a 6-figure launch, and oh, I had a 30k day, and I'm sitting there going, I'm making less money in this container than I was before. And I was like, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? And it's because I'm in that mindset, right? Why isn't this working? And I'm looking for more evidence of why it isn't working, because I think if I look for evidence of why it isn't working, I'll be able to find the evidence, fix the problem, and then it will work. The problem was, of course, that I was looking for the problems. This year, when I started to really integrate the work that I did over those 6 months in that container, and I actually took myself out of working with any mentors for a while because I just wanted to come back to my own sovereignty. So what I've done is I've actually allowed myself a period of integration, and now I'm starting to look into like where I might want mentoring and working with different people again to like grow my skill set and deepen my intuition and all that good stuff. But I had to take a little break there because I really wanted to integrate what I'd learnt and live it through my life rather than looking outside of me to try and figure out which pieces I was meant to use and which pieces I wasn't, And I just allowed myself to like be me for a few months and really be me. Just create what felt good for me. If I didn't want to do something, I just didn't do it. And it's been really eye-opening and enlightening. And I think the biggest thing that I take away from this is what I've been saying to you in this live stream, which is I understand now that I create exponential results in my life when I feel supported, whether that's by me or a container or whatever, when I allow myself to feel supported. That's the key. If you're not open to receiving support, if you're not open to being vulnerable enough to actually be supported in the way that you really want to be, that you crave and desire to be, if you're not willing yet to feel the vulnerability of actually receiving that support into your life, that's the first thing that you need to look at. Because when you are willing to receive that support, that leaning back energy that you'll hear a lot of us, spiritual, energetic coaches talking about, that energy of surrender, leaning back and allowing things to come into your life, it gets so much easier. But you can't hate yourself to that point. You can't punish yourself into that. Because when you are when you are punishing yourself, you are creating fight or flight response in the body. What happens to a little kid if if you're really fucking mean to them and you tell them all the shit they're doing wrong? Does that help them get better? Certainly didn't help me, and it still doesn't help me. I still say this like it's true, but there's still like a little slither of it because human as fuck. But again, such a huge, even from the beginning of this year, even I was being so fucking hard on myself. But what used to happen was when someone else was hard on me because they thought it would bring out and activate my potential, it just triggered all the stuff inside of me. And I used to think, I'm so fucking hard on myself. I don't need someone else to reflect that back to me. What I really need is someone to see the light in me and the potential and say to me, holy fuck, man, don't forget how amazing you are. You are so powerful. Just shift your perspective and remember that. Right? That is what I need. That is why, for example, like my personal trainer, my Muay Thai instructor, that's why he gets such amazing results out of me, because he shows me what I'm good at. He encourages me to be better. And he'll see when my brain is starting to attack myself, and he'll go, what? No, I can see what's happening here. And he will call me on it, and he'll be like, don't let your mind defeat you. You can do this. And I'm like, yes, I can. And because I can feel the congruence in him, because he believes in me, I'm like, yeah, I can do this. And then it just reinforces my belief in myself. The belief in myself had to be there to begin with. No one else can do that for you. You have to have at least an inkling that you've got the fucking potential to be great, or even good, or even enjoy something. But if you really want to excel and become, on the path to mastery, and the funny thing about thinking about mastery of anything is that I don't believe it's actually possible, because I believe the more that you cultivate mastery in something, the more you realize there is to learn, the more questions there are to answer, and that's just what makes it even more fun. So when we realize that we can never really be like a master or the best at anything, we just start to release the pressure, and rather than thinking, oh, I can never be the best, well, what's the point, we can just be like, whoa, there's always going to be more for me to learn here. Fuck, how cool is that? How cool is that there is always more to learn about the stuff that you love? You're never going to get... I love learning about myself, right? I'm a 2-line in human design. I love to see more and more layers of myself and understand myself. When I think about self-development work, the idea that someone will be like, okay, you're done now. There is nothing else you can learn about yourself. I'd be like, can I start the game again? Maybe I'll create some sabotage and then I can learn a bit more about myself. It's like, no, you're good. You're done. You're literally done. Perfect human. Great. Go around the next 40, 50 years of your life just as you are. Perfect. I'd be like, because I love learning about myself. But I don't do it from a place of, there's so much wrong with me. I used to, but I don't do that anymore. I just look at it as, there's always something new to learn. There's always more that I can expand. There's always another layer that I can peel back and see more of myself, which means that I can be a clearer mirror for my clients and a cleaner mirror for the other people in my life. You know, have you ever been around somebody who's just so grounded in themselves, who just, nothing really seems to bother them? You know, and if it does, they just take it on board and go, oh, that really annoyed me. I'm gonna have a look at that later. That is the kind of people that I want in my life, and that is why I have become that person and why I continue to be that person. Because there are not many of us really who are actually willing to continually be in a place of self-reflection and sovereignty and self-responsibility. We want to give our power away because then it means we don't have to do the hard work of looking at ourselves. But when you make it fun and you realize that, you know, it's actually not work, it's like, it's really fucking fun. Such a self-development junkie, I fucking love it. But when you realize that there's always more to learn, it can be a really exciting thing. And it doesn't mean, when you equate, for example, like for coaches or I see this in artists all the time, it's like, oh, but I can't price my work there because that person is further along or has more of this or more of that. And I'm just like, what do you want to price your work at? Whether you're a coach, a mentor, in the healing industry, an artist, wherever you spend, you know, wherever you receive your money from, whatever your business is, it doesn't matter where anyone else is. It's where you are. It's where you are. And it's when we stop connecting the money that we receive with how much we are worth as a person. I actually had one of my like highest level one-to-one clients. I actually had her last week ask a piece of work how much it wanted to be. I was like, have you ever actually just asked the work, like, how much do you want to be sold for? She was like, oh, no, great, go do that. Because why not? But the main point that I want to make, but as we know, I always go on many tangents because that's the magic of the Nolly brain. It spirals as much as my hair. Ping, ping. So loving myself, being compassionate with myself and loving myself into expansion. What this really means, you can get expansion from either. You can get expansion from fear and like moving yourself forward because you're afraid of something, or because you feel like it's dangerous for you to stay where you are and you need to move. Or you can even grow from compare and despair, and you're constantly comparing yourself to other people and thinking, oh fuck, I should be further along. That can catalyze you into action and it can make you move. The difference being when you allow yourself to grow from a place of loving yourself enough to gift yourself the expansiveness of living into your infinite potential and your limitless nature. When you gift yourself that, oh my God, can you feel the difference? Like, sit with it and feel how it feels. What happens in your fucking nervous system? Can you feel how different it is to think about allowing yourself to love yourself into growth? I love myself enough to do this inner work. I love myself enough to allow myself to price my offerings at where I feel that they need to be priced. I love myself enough to invest in that mentor, that program, that new modality, whatever it is. I love myself enough to say no to that. I love myself enough to say yes to this. I love myself enough to rest as long and as much as I fucking want to. I love myself enough to not feel I need to respond to every motherfucking message I get from anyone. I love myself enough to prioritize to whom I respond and when. And this was a big one for me. And I was thinking about this today, that when I was running group offerings and things a couple of years ago, even like 2 or 3, even 2 years ago probably, I would have the same level of like obligation. I would feel obligation in my system at the same level in paid programs as I did with my VIP clients and in this free community. I'd be in here answering everything all the time, like constantly. And I'm like, looking back on that now, and I'm like, no wonder I was fucking knackered, you know, understanding what each of my containers is about. has really helped me. Understanding that this group, this Mindset and Life Transformations group, where I'm doing this original live stream right now, I know that you'll find it on YouTube, you'll find it on Instagram, you'll find it in all the places eventually, because I do that with my content. I put it everywhere so that as many people can have access to it as they want and receive the transmission, the activation, and like get the juice, because that's important to me. But there would have been a time where I would have felt like I would have treated this like it was a fucking paid program and a one-to-one client level, and I would have been like obsessively watching the comments and making sure I got back to everybody. Now, I'm still pretty good at getting back to people and responding, but there is nothing wrong with prioritizing the people who are actually invested in working with you. I had to do a lot of work around, oh, but then I'm only in it for the money and blah, blah. And it's like, no. What do I expect from somebody? If I'm working with someone and I've invested at the level which I, the investment that I ask for people to work with me one-to-one, if I've paid someone that money and I'm expecting them to prioritize me because I've invested at them at the highest level so that I can have that level of access to them. If they're burnt the fuck out because they're so busy in their free communities and their lower level programs and I'm going to be like, well, why the fuck did I bother paying you for this one-to-one access if I'm not actually receiving any extra benefit from being here? I may as well just be in your free community. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's nothing wrong with serving the people who have invested in you at the higher level, with the people who've invested in you at a mid-range level, and with the people who've invested their time just showing up in your free community and wanting to be a part of that. It's okay for you to spend more time away from all of it if you want to, if that's what feels good. If you need to take time away from all of it, please do. You cannot punish yourself enough to succeed and maintain it. Loving yourself means taking care of your frequency first. And if you're burning yourself, if you are someone who comes to me and says, if you're moaning about money, let me just get my soapbox out a minute. I'm going to perch myself on it. If you're somebody who's running a business of any kind, if you've got shit for sale and that is your main income stream, or maybe it's not your main income stream yet, but you would like it to be, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, why the fuck is this not working? Why am I not making any money here? And you're burning yourself the fuck out in all of your free containers, or like in other people's free containers, supporting their work, which is lovely. It's great for us to support each other. But if you are doing that, this is like a fucking earth imbalance, by the way. This is an earth imbalance. So if you're looking at how this relates to the offering that I've put in the contents and the tapping into the elements, this is an earth imbalance. This is when people feel that they need to go and tend to other people's fields, other people's harvests. Ooh, woo! Oh my God, I just got such a massive energy wave there. My hands are prickling. I feel really dizzy. Wait a second. Do you ever get that happen? When it feels like the world goes, what? So what happens with the earth element is that you've got your fields to cultivate, you've got your plot of land, you've sown your seeds, and then you go, oh look, that person over there has got a field as well. I better go and help them out. Lovely. Nothing wrong with that. But then when you spend so much time in someone else's field trying to fix all the shit for them, and then you come back to your own motherfucking field and it's fallow, everything's just dead, the earth is cracked, the seeds have gone and given up because you didn't tend to your own fucking crop. That is an earth imbalance. And this is about, we talked to the new paradigm of power about getting selfish and like really taking stock of what you need to do for yourself more regularly than you're doing right now. What do you need to do for yourself on a daily basis to make sure that you've nurtured your own internal frequency? Also important. So we will be looking at that when we look at the earth element, which will be in the second week. Earth, yeah. In the second week, the first week we do fire, but second week is earth. We actually look at this idea of tending to your own crops, tending to your own stuff first, because it's so important to make sure that all of your elements are in balance. It's so, so important to know that you're always going to have slight imbalances in places. Sometimes you might have a raging imbalance somewhere, and we'll probably identify that in the 5 weeks that we spend together. But for me, this earth element piece, and it's also connected to my fire as well, but we'll go into that I'm not going to go into that too much now, because, you know, if you want all of the juice on the elements, then maybe it's time for you to invest and come and do that work with me starting next week. Exciting! But this idea of understanding where you're out of balance, and understanding that, for me, I know that my fire and my earth, where my fire is out of balance and I'm like trying to please everybody and trying to keep everybody happy, that's fire. You know, like entertain, high vibe, keep everyone happy, neglect my own needs, and then that gets exacerbated in the earth element because I'm not taking care of any of my needs, so I'm not being intentional about my own life, so I end up not receiving enough nourishment, and I end up not feeling really fucking disconnected from myself, which then fucks up my metal element, right? Ooh. That means my sweet potato brownies are done. If you can hear my little timer going off in the kitchen, it will stop in a moment. But remember, you cannot hate yourself into growth. You must, well, you can if you really want to, but it is not sustainable, and it's a really fucking miserable way to do it. So I would suggest coming and joining, tapping into the elements, and understanding from the very first week, we're going to be looking at the concepts of, am I lovable? This is a big part of the fire element, understanding that you are lovable. You are lovable, you are likable, and even if people don't love or like you, it's actually nothing to do with you, it's to do with them. It's not your problem. You are love. This is the thing that I want people to understand, is that we are love. We are an embodied frequency of love, of consciousness. We are pure love. And yet we keep ourselves from experiencing it or believing it or feeling it, because we're worried that if we love ourselves too fucking much, we might glow too much, we might shine too bright, we might become too powerful. It's all about this idea of, maybe I'll just be too much. Fuck that shit. If you know that it is time for you to fully own your fire, to fully step into your natural performer nature, if it is time for you to start cultivating your intentions, really coming back into your body and understanding what you want from life, and then how do we bring that into fruition, we're going to look at, as we go through all of the elements, I'm going to be telling you the role that each of them plays in manifestation, because really that's what this is about. It's about actualizing, it's about bringing things out of the realm of fantasy into reality. And balancing your elements is such a beautiful fucking way to do that. And if you're someone who likes steps, because you have a lot of thoughts, if you're like me and you have like a lot of thoughts, a lot of the time and a lot of energy, then this is a really beautiful way for you to look at, okay, so maybe I wasn't actually really clear on what I wanted, and maybe that's the reason why the thing isn't here. Or maybe you've got an imbalance in the wood element and actually you're just not doing the thing that you know you need to do. Maybe you're not taking enough action. Or maybe you've got an imbalance in your water element and it's like you just feel paralyzed with fear and you're like, I'm anxious, I just don't think I can do the thing. When we go through the elements, don't forget, we're not just going to be learning about them. We're going to be using tapping. We're going to be clearing each of the elements using EFT, and we're going to be bringing them into balance. And you will have lifetime access to this content, so you can go back anytime and re-tap, re-listen, re-educate yourself, and really take time to integrate the wisdom. We're going to be journeying these elements. There's just no way to do this work without you actually feeling, experiencing the embodied understanding of the elements. 5 weeks, you, me, a group of badasses. It's happening. We start on Monday. Link is below with a little bit of information. But the beautiful thing about these offerings is they have a frequency all of their own, and they're already speaking to you. So if you know you need to be in there, you're going to be in there. And I'm very excited to take this journey with you. I'm going to go and take my brownies out of the oven. Love you, bye.